Once I get to this stage of the build with the neck installed, I'm ready to begin final assembly, but before I do that, I need to position the components. Even though I used the CNC machine to cut the neck pocket and the pickup pockets and everything was done precisely, I still like to double check the position of each of the components to make sure that they're lined up properly. The last thing I want to have happen is for strings to fall off the edge of the fretboard or not to line up with the pole position of the pickups. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to determine the position of the bridge based on the scale length of the guitar. And since this is a 25.5-inch scale, what I'm going to do is from the 12th fret, which is the middle, I'm going to measure 12 3/4 inches from the center of the 12th fret, and that's where the front of the saddle should be. So what I've done with the bridge is I've moved the saddles all the way forward and then moved them back about 3/32 of an inch, and that's going to be as far forward as I want them to go. And then what I can do is I can measure from that center of that 12th fret to the front of the bridge saddles. And actually I need to go a little bit further back into the saddle because that's the point at which the string leaves the saddle and moves towards the nut. So with this particular bridge design, I'm centering I'm placing the very end of the ruler over the center of the height adjustment hex screws. That's roughly the point at which the string breaks from the bridge. So that is right exactly where I want it. So now I have the bridge positioned accurately as far as the scale is concerned. Now what I have to do is I have to make sure that the bridge is centered with respect to the neck. And to do that, I just use some sewing thread. So what I'll do is I'll place the thread approximately where, in this case, the low E string would be. And then I place it right in the notch on the saddle. And what I'm looking at is to make sure that the string is equidistant along the entire length of the fretboard from the edge of the fretboard. You know, I don't want it to be going off, and I don't want it to be too far in. I want it to be, as I said, equidistant. Then I move to the other side to where the high E string will be, and I do the same thing. And I just want to make sure that the string on both the high and the low E are going to be the same distance in from the edge of the fretboard along its entire length. And once I have that, I'm now pretty confident that the bridge is exactly where it needs to be. So what I'll do is I'm going to use an awl to mark the position of the holes, and then I'll drill those holes probably about 1.25 inches deep, and then I'll use 2 screws to hold the bridge into place temporarily. So that's the next step. Of course, we can't forget the ground wire for the bridge, and that's going to be drilled at an angle into the pickup cavity. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to install the bridge, but I'm only going to use 2 screws to hold it into place. And the reason for that is because I'm going to use the base plate of the bridge as a guide for installing or for drilling the string through holes. And what I'll need to do is remove the saddles and the springs and screws, and then I'll use the holes that are in the base plate as a guide for drilling those string through holes. Okay, so in the next episode, I'm going to show you how I drill perfectly straight holes for the string through ferrules on the back of the guitar body.